So sometimes when I see people argue from the PlayStation side, or maybe there might be neutral about Xbox's position in the gaming scene, I can't necessarily find where many of them are getting their data from. Sometimes they'll make claims that to me are more like religious chants than anything that has any facts that go with it. I think deep down inside, many PlayStation fans, or even people who may be looking from outside, don't necessarily know that they're actually in a position where they desire that Xbox be out of the console business rather than them speculating that Xbox will be out of the console business. The reason I say this is because whenever we talk about this stuff, and I don't want to put anybody on blast, however, I do have a comment that, showed up, and because of my replies, the person's username is going to be out there. So please, we're not trying to make fun of anybody, but I think some people may be somewhat misguided as to exactly what their position is, or maybe they don't want to say their position out loud, so they try to mask it within these arguments as things that seem factual, and then they'll argue in, circles whenever you kind of catch them. Like, shout out to the Busby Babes. This person said, in a decade or two, we'll be talking about Xbox the same way we're now talking about Sega. Now, this is a bold statement because you have to be God to be able to tell me what's going to happen or tell anybody what's going to happen in a decade or two. But this person made that statement definitively. So already we know that we can't take that as a serious statement. That's number one. Number two, this is from a position of brand loyalty. And I'm going to make assumptions too, because I replied, and my reply was one that presumed that this person is basically pursuing brand loyalty. I said brand loyalty can only carry people so far. Value is where it's at. Unless you're saying that maybe most gamers are not prudent and maybe they don't want value, you got to be careful when you speak for other people. And this person said Xbox will be gone as a console within a generation or two. Another declarative statement that is based on nothing. The amount of developers complaining about how it makes no sense to develop for Xbox, which is a story that is poof, because this is actually a big fugazi, a fomented piece of junk hardware in terms of news that has just come out of, somewhere where anonymous developers who are not showing their faces or putting their names behind these comments are talking about how it makes no sense to make games for Xbox without a Game Pass deal. So what these people are saying, these developers are saying is, if somebody does not necessarily guarantee our success, we're not going to put a game on Xbox, which is, in my opinion, the epitome of asinine. If Xbox is not going to guarantee your success in the gaming scene, then don't make a game for Xbox. But other developers, like myself and my development team, we want to make a game for Xbox. And I put my name, and if you go back to my videos, you'll see my face behind it, where I'm saying that for those developers who don't want to make their games on Xbox, I thank them profusely because what they're doing is they're creating space for folk like me. So that conversation is from developers who may not necessarily, I think they're actually mystery developers who may not necessarily be business savvy. But let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit more, because I strongly believe that a lot of people don't necessarily understand what the ramifications of that kind of market would look like. Because you never want to give a monopoly to a company that has the capability of driving the market. You don't want to give them that monopoly power. So you need, actually, for the competitors to remain in place. I've been making a lot of these videos and I'm a PC player, but I understand that the console scene actually influences and affects the way games are made, and games also indirectly are deployed on PC. Believe it or not, if you're a PC gamer, you're not 100% insulated. You are largely insulated. You're like 80-90% insulated from the bogus crap that goes on these console markets. However, the best deals come from the fact that PlayStation and Xbox continue to be in raging competition. So what we need to be pointing out who is actually healthy, who's providing value, and who's capable of continuing to actually weather the competitive market. And right now, Xbox is ahead. It's not me that's saying that. It's PlayStation analysts that said that their pillars are dated and behind the competition. They don't have what it takes to be able to deliver games the way they would prefer to, or at least at the same measure of their competitor. They don't have the money to be able to buy publishers that can actually bring more value to that platform, because that's what Game Pass is all about. Buy the games and bring them there, pay them for the games to bring them on there. That's just basically the Game Pass platform. So why would Xbox sell a device mechanism that organically brings in possibly Game Pass subscribers? Why would they choose to actually move that away? This is one question that a lot of folk who say these things cannot answer. So I strongly believe that they're actually saying it from the fact that they truly would like for Xbox to get out of business, but they just don't know how to say it without being overtly coarse and biased. At least some of the worst elements in this whole conversation would say it. They want Xbox out of the business, but what they don't realize is they're setting themselves up for a market where they probably will not be able to endure what the conditions will look like. Now, many people who are members of the Video Game Fight School channel are very young people. And so I want to ask this question from an economic standpoint, which is on a personal level in terms of how a lot of people manage their finances in terms of just their groceries, which is a core budget piece for a lot of people. How do you spend your money when you actually are looking at, say, your monthly feeding? Are you somebody that eats out and you're not paying attention to your expenses? If you're not, then, this conversation may not be relevant to you. I say, maybe it might be good to take a look at that, or maybe you choose not to. It's your money. Do what you want with it. However, those of us that go to the grocery store, those of us that are raising families, that have to look at our budget every month as to what we're spending on our feeding, we realize that a Walmart and an Aldi play very important roles, especially being side by side to each other. Many of you don't know what an Aldi is. An Aldi is actually a grocery chain from the owners of Trader Joe's, but they provide a lot of value in their items and their goods. They actually make some of their goods and items less expensive than Walmart because they've cut down on a lot of things. They don't give you bags for free. You have to buy bags. They basically scale their stores to only carry necessities and their highest selling items and maybe a few things that may be useful for you. And that way they can keep their costs down. And they also have a way where they don't hire or staff the store excessively. So it's only the bare minimum and it's very efficient. This way they can cut down their prices and stay competitive. Also, they target Walmart locations and even some other grocery store locations to put their stores right by them. And anybody who's paying attention to their wallet or even the value proposition actually pays attention to the fact that there's an Aldi there. If you're not paying attention to that, then you probably don't have any need to be looking at your grocery budget, and you're more than likely not talking about who is in the console space. You're just spending your money the way you want. However, I think some gamers, they fall into this trap where in their personal lives, they'll maintain prudence. They'll actually shop accordingly and, save money where they can, but they still tend to lean towards brand loyalty because a lot of these brands have, in a sense, impacted us since we were kids. So just like, somebody will spend extra money buying a Honda or a Toyota or a Ford or a GMC out of brand loyalty because that's what it is, when there might be another brand of car that could probably be better or give you, maybe better gas mileage or better value. I see the same thing happening in terms of the console conversation, in terms of what, consoles people are basically going to be playing on. But ladies and gentlemen, if you let either Xbox or PlayStation take the monopoly in terms of making consoles, many of you that are console players who actually truly desire this, because you can't prove to me that Xbox is going to stop making hardware. They already have actually refreshed their hardware this year. Xbox president has already said that there's going to be another console coming soon. And we even saw schematics for a more lean cloud-based console that they were trying to do that they actually did go ahead and scrap because they could not get the price to where they wanted. So they still have R&D going on to try to bring consoles to people. And even though they want to, bring their games everywhere, they still have console in mind. Why? It's a core piece of their business. Because they're selling 30 million consoles does not mean that they're going to go ahead and abandon the business. Popeyes is not going to drop chicken sandwiches because it's not selling as much as Chick-fil-A. That would be a stupid thing for Popeyes to do, and also be a stupid thing for Microsoft to do if they were to drop their consoles. So look at other markets. When you go out today and you're driving down the street and you're looking at businesses, look at those businesses and look at their competition, then come back and look at Xbox and PlayStation. And I think it's going to give you an education because you really don't need anybody to teach you this stuff. It's already out here and you know it and you use it and you do it. You would hate for Popeyes to get out of business. Why? You want variety. You want a different kind of experience from time to time. You want maybe your other pizza shops to stay. You don't want Domino's to basically dominate. You don't want Papa John's to dominate. You don't want Pizza Hut to dominate. Oh, God forbid there was only a Pizza Hut available to you, right? But somehow you want a PlayStation only, ecosystem. And some of you're very adamant about it. I think it's the youth in this whole thing, or maybe it's just, the lack of experience overall. I mean, I'm not trying to diss on anybody, but it's really exposing a lot of what I think is, quite weird in our society today, that we're not necessarily looking at a lot of these things and, carrying out some good thinking about it. So when all is said and done, ask any of these folk who continue to tell you that Xbox is going to be out of business like Sega. as to why. They're going to come up with either a lie or they're going to come up with something that ignores a lot of data and a lot of context just so that they can maybe, in a sense, think they can prove their point. Sounding right doesn't mean you're right, man. And also ignoring, something that's sitting in front of you, in front of your nose, is called willful ignorance. Let's not engage in that. If you like PlayStation, sure, it's fine. But trust me, if PlayStation starts selling you an $800 console, it will be basically you getting an answer to your prayer, the answer to the prayer that you want. As a PC gamer, I couldn't care at all. We work on, the different frequency. We go directly to NVIDIA and AMD and Intel. So we're doing hardware differently out here. You have to basically eat what these console manufacturers serve up on a plate for you. And somehow you want one of them to not give the other one a little bit of competitive trouble. This is a young person talking. I don't think they really understand the critical elements as to what this could look like economically. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.